Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's our 2025 Subaru Forester. But if you're new to my channel or you're new to the videos where I talk about our Subaru Forester, this one specifically is a premium. And there's one update since the last video that I'll get into in just a moment, but this update video for you guys is mostly about the safety features and has Subaru upped them. Are they better than the last generation? Does the 3-camera 4th gen eyesight system really work that much better? Or is it basically the same as the last generation? Today, in just a couple seconds, I'm going to take it on the street. We're going to do a variety of tests, and we're going to find out. I'm not going to do the emergency braking test. If you want to watch that, you're going to have to check out my own Subaru Outback Wilderness video where I checked out its own safety features a little while ago. That one's kind of sketchy, but this is going to be more to see if the new eyesight system is up to date and how does the rest of the safety features work as a whole. And then back to what I was saying, there's one change with ours since you saw it last. It now has window tint. 35% on the front and the power moonroof. It's not quite as dark as probably the low 20% on the back, but seriously, doesn't it look so much better, especially with the white and black color scheme? And if you guys are anywhere near southern Idaho and you're considering window tint, I strongly recommend you check out the Tint Lady. She's highly rated. I highly recommend her. I've actually taken 5 vehicles to her now, and she does phenomenal work. She's professional. She has a nice environment. Her whole office space, her whole shop setup, it's actually really comfy, cozy, and you learn a lot just by sitting in there and reading everything that she has hanging on the wall. And if you mention that you heard about her in one of my videos, she'll even give you a substantial discount. But just check this out, the quality of this tint. And because the Forester does have such big windows, it really shields a lot of the light that you otherwise would be getting in here, which means the heat is also a lot lower. And at least on the Premium, the factory sunroof didn't come with any window tint, so this seriously was burning my head before getting it tinted, but now it looks a lot better. So let's hop inside, take it for a drive, and if you guys like anything you see today, please consider liking this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to watch more stuff, and comment your thoughts and opinions below. Otherwise, a lot of you guys have been asking about the safety features and how well the Forester does, so let's dive right into this video. Before this goes on the road though, I do want to mention, if you are new to Subarus, the LED headlights and fog lights on these are super bright. So just like a lot of other Subarus, they outshine a lot of the other competition, especially at night. The backup camera, though, for when you guys might be using that, it's still grainy, it still isn't fantastic. Those perpendicular lines for the parking spaces you can see right there, you can see them okay, you can see what you need to, but the camera quality isn't fantastic. I will be interested to see what the 360 camera is on the Touring. That's the only trim level I haven't filmed yet. And then, right now, the UV index is a 7. It's over 100 degrees outside. And seriously, having the window tint to block some of the glare, the UV rays, and just keep the interior cooler, seriously, what a difference compared to the first couple weeks we had this. And with that said, now I'll teleport to the road. So I'm starting with adaptive cruise control, and the lowest speed that this Forester lets you set it at is 20 miles per hour. You can also see by all those perpendicular lines that I have this set to be as far away from oncoming vehicles. I don't have automatic vehicle hold turned on right now, it's just turned off. There's a Camry in front of me, and it looks like I'm at a complete stop, 0 miles per hour, and it still seems to be holding it. My feet aren't touching the pedals, which are something I never recommend you do. If you're driving, keep your hand on the wheel, keep your feet on the pedals wherever they need to be. So disclaimer, anything you see here that might not seem legal, it's all CGI, but the Subaru on this CGI impressions, it's holding it. I have driven adaptive cruise control vehicles before that when it gets you to a stop, it then instantly restarts the system and it starts to get you back up to speed. So you're going to be in trouble, especially even this system. If you're doing this at a 4-way stop, you're going to be in trouble. So you do need to be careful. And if, okay, the light is green now, so let's see how long it takes for us to move. And it did not get us going, so that's a shame. So I'm going to get back up to speed. And on these newer Subarus, the reset or the accelerate and decelerate buttons, it's just single units. It's not jumping up by 5 like the old ones do. Now, if you want to do that, you have to hold it, which is what the old Subaru systems used to do 1 mile per hour increments. All right, though, but keeping cruise control on right now, I'm really far away from that Camry in front of us, and I'm not quite sure what this system is doing. So I'm going to get out of it real quick, and then I'm going to get to the speed limit and turn it on again. We're going to see what it can do. There's also a big turn coming up ahead. Okay, so I'm going to be at the speed limit. You know what? Let's go a little bit closer. closer than I personally would, because Subarus are sometimes known for getting chipped windshields a little bit more easy than other vehicles because there is so much glass. But I'm at 35 cruising down the road. So far it's doing a pretty good job to keep me in my lane. And when we get up to this turn ahead, I'll show you guys what that does too. Okay, here's a pretty good turn. We're still going about 35 miles an hour and it's not locked on to any vehicles. Let's see if the Subaru does the job. And it looks like it is. I'm being passed by a truck in the other lane. But this is actually holding pretty well. Other Subarus I've driven, the older systems, sometimes they hold that curve, sometimes they do not. But otherwise, still just driving through this town, and it's detecting the lanes, and it hasn't abruptly bumped me out of the lane yet. So that's good, although there is a red light up ahead, and that big F-150, the one that just passed us, is still up there. Let's see what this does. I'm just gonna see what lane it gets us in while it's kind of dividing. That's interesting. It's actually taking the middle lane. Oop, and it was very jerky just now. That was kind of sketchy. And foot is still off the brake. It took us to a complete stop. I won't let you guys be bored by just me waiting out this light, so I'll restart the camera once we get going, and we'll see if the Subaru unlocks the brake and starts moving, or if it just stays here like it did last time. Okay, the light is green, and it's holding me, it's holding me. It seems like it will eventually do the flash and the beep that says that vehicles have started moving, but unlike my Outback Wilderness with the less advanced eyesight system, that will get you moving again, at least as far as I can remember, and this does not seem to be, and maybe there's a setting that you can change, but I kind of doubt it on this one. So that's interesting. Now I'm going to turn on auto vehicle hold, and we'll see if it's any different at the next stop. What I have noticed before with auto vehicle hold is if you let the vehicle stop, you push the brake all the way down, the vehicle stays stopped, but if you touch the brake pedal, it abruptly unlocks it too, which is kind of interesting. I'm out of cruise control right now. I'm just on the brake on my own with auto vehicle hold. So it's not held by the adaptive cruise settings, and you'll notice auto vehicle hold flashes on the dash, which is what it did before when I was testing this on my own. But if I come off the brake, I'm still holding stationary. If I just barely touch it, it starts moving again, just like if you touch the gas pedal. That wasn't actually as abruptive on camera just now as it actually was yesterday when I was testing it too. Kind of interesting. I'm on kind of a long, slow turn, and we only have one side that's painted, and so far this is doing pretty well. I'm pretty sure it doesn't detect the sidewalk, so seriously, you can't trust the system, but it's actually doing a really good job to keep me centered in this lane, surprisingly well for only detecting one side. That's a lot better than I'm pretty sure my Outback and other Subarus I've driven have done in the past. And here I'm not doing anything. It's of course flashing at me. It's a very angry system when you take your hands off the wheel. If you ever do that in real life, I don't recommend it. But again, with auto vehicle hold on, now it's not flashing. So kind of interesting. If any of you guys know why that is and why that wasn't before, let me know. Otherwise, we're just gonna jiggle the wheel around. And then in a second, we'll see what happens when all these cars start moving. Okay, traffic is starting to move. Auto vehicle hold is still on in the system. And is the vehicle gonna move? Nope, not before I need to start moving, before we upset the drivers behind us. Anyways, let's maybe go out into the country and see how this does at speed and how it does with cruise control settings at speed, as well as slowing down and lane keep assist when we're going more than 35 miles per hour. But on the way out to the country, I have the opportunity to take this pretty good corner at 35 miles an hour again to see if the system goes 2 for 2 successfully or if it kicks us off. Because again, my Outback sometimes can take this when I come into town, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see what it does right here. Surprisingly well, and it actually feels like I'm centered in the lane, but slightly maybe on the right side of it, hugging the inner corner. And better just touch the wheel. But yeah, this is actually keeping me centered a little bit better than they usually do. And for anyone wondering, our Forester has about 350 miles. I restarted the trip about 17 miles after we got it, and currently it's getting 27.4. That has not been babying it like I do when I do an MPG test. That's just a lot of around town, a lot of slow highway, but not for long periods of time. It's not been a road trip or anything like that. That's why it's closer to the city MPG than the highway. And let me just show you right here, blind spot monitoring comes on. I don't prefer the nub over what these used to have, but you barely saw the end of that. I put my signal on as if I was going to change lanes, and while they were there, it doesn't beep at you, it only flashes. And again, it's obvious, sort of, but it's not overly obvious. This really should be integrated to beep at you. That would be a lot safer in my opinion. Even though a lot of people don't like the Subaru beeps, and in fact, they can be quite annoying, that is one beep that I would be okay to tolerate. I'm working my way back out of town, and I do want to mention, I am curious to see what the actual true MPG of this is. When I used to have a Crosstrek, it ran about 5% overly generous on the computer. When you hand calculate it, it was about 2 miles per gallon, or 5% less than what the computer reads. But my Outback, which definitely right from the beginning felt like the more sophisticated Big Brother version of that, it was about a half mile per gallon off, so much closer and only slightly generous compared to the Crosstrek system that just wasn't developed as well. So I am curious how this does. I hope this is closer to the Outbacks or even better than the Crosstrek. But the Forester in a lot of ways does feel just like a kind of in between the Crosstrek and the Outback as far as the quality and build of it goes. I'm gonna get up to speed now. Density altitude's over 5,000 feet, so this Forester's down on power about 20%. This is just light acceleration, keeping the RPMs below 4,000. And honestly, the CVT, as much as most of us would rather just have a true automatic that maybe is a little bit more reliable, in more cases, it actually is so good, especially for all of the adaptive features, because the rubber bandy sort of effect of this is a lot less abrasive than the downshifting. Some vehicles downshift 2 or 3 gears when you lose speed and you have to make a correction. The CVT, it's quiet, it's composed, it really doesn't make a big racket. It just does the job, and you hardly know if you're above or below the limit because it does such a good job of smoothly keeping you at speed. But anyways, back to the point of getting out into the country. This is a 50-mile-per-hour road, so I'm right at the speed limit. And so far, it does feel like it's keeping me centered pretty well in the lane. I haven't had any scary moments yet. Usually it takes a little while for those to happen because it does only happen a few percent of the time in the older ones. But so far, it does a pretty good job. And I'm actually going to break the lane centering real quick just to see how this does, doing a little bit of turning. Definitely doesn't feel as stable as my Outback just because it's not as long, the wheelbase is shorter, it's slightly taller, so higher center of gravity, while having less weight to hold it down and plant it to the road like the Outback. So it is kind of interesting. We just lost our lines here, so it's just wandering over to the other lane. And there is a stop sign up ahead, so if we can catch up to that truck, I am really curious to see what this does. I'm going to go to max distance again. So far, it has not locked on to the vehicle right there, and we're going to see what this can do. Oop, you know what? It was getting a little bit too close for comfort, so I'm putting the brake on, because otherwise that would have been like an emergency stop. Anyways, this is a pretty good four-way, so let's do a U-turn here. 35 feet to do a full circle, not bad. Getting back up to speed. When you're unloaded, the Forester doesn't struggle too much. Honestly though, getting 27 MPG in this one so far per the computer readout, I don't think my MPG would have been any worse in my Turbo Outback Wilderness based off of how I drive, but also probably about half these miles are driven by my wife, so it's hard to say for sure. But that's the tough thing. If you can granny drive a turbo Subaru, you can actually get as good of mileage as a naturally aspirated one while having more power when you need it, especially to, merge into traffic and avoid incidences. But otherwise, I'm back up to the speed limit or just barely over in the CGI example, and it's doing a good job. It's holding me pretty straight down the lane. It would be interesting if these Subarus eventually adopt what the Cybertruck has, which is steer-by-wire, kind of like the gas pedal drive-by-wire, where you no longer have a cable connecting the actual gas pedal to the throttle body, because then you could numb the steering a little bit at higher speeds. But even going 50, it doesn't feel as sensitive as the last generation at that speed. But I don't feel as stable just because, like I mentioned before, this vehicle doesn't feel quite as stable as my Outback, changing direction when you are going fast. It handles better at lower speeds than higher speeds. I'm not sure if we'll be able to catch this vehicle. Oop, it is starting to slow down, but the vehicle's going, so because it's just a four-way stop, that's when I need to step in, because otherwise it would start to accelerate again. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with this system. I don't think it's any worse than the last one, and I do think it is a little bit better, but not drastically better. Some things are more noticeable, like the steering. It doesn't feel as sharp, and like you will accidentally overcorrect on the road. It just feels like a boxy CUV where you just don't want to be cornering at fast speed because it's not built for that, but it doesn't feel so abrupt that you're accidentally going to get bumped out of the lane. And maybe with more driving, and when I finally take this on some road trips in the next few weeks, I'll be able to experience if it does kick me out of the lane by overcorrecting. But so far, I'm not really having that concern. I'm not really having that worry. So for any of you guys who have been wondering and asking a lot of questions in the comments about how this does compared to the old one and if that system has been improved, I think it has been. But still, only 350 miles split between my wife and I. That's really not a lot of driving time, so there's going to be a lot more miles put on this soon. But like I said right from the beginning, this vehicle being mostly driven by her or me when we're on road trips and stuff together, it really doesn't get a lot of use. So we're going to have to find some opportunities to take it for drives so that I can share more with you guys and we can enjoy this new vehicle. But, you know, almost a month old and not even 400 miles kind of speaks to what this vehicle's used for. Anyways, guys, if you like this, please consider liking it. I hope it was useful. I hope it was helpful for you guys. I wasn't really sure what to expect, and this was an informative video, at least for myself, of it does a little bit better than I was expecting and a little bit better than the 5th gens, but not drastically and not the reason, you know, that reason alone to buy this over another one. Anyways, guys, comment your thoughts, comment your opinions. They are valid, and see you next time. Bye.